Welcome back, pod people. My guest today is Meghan Adara, the star of the 2024 film The Cellar, which is a really interesting example of another entry in the sort of subgenre that long-time listeners will know I'm a big fan of the real monster is some sort of real world issue. Like the real monster is addiction, the real monster is trauma, depression, sleep deprivation, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the real monster is addiction.
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
longtime listeners might also be surprised that I'm interviewing an actor rather than a writer or director, but that's actually really appropriate for this movie because The Cellar, more than almost any other movie I've watched recently, is nearly a one-woman show. For most of the runtime of the movie, Meghan is the only person on screen. And also, really interestingly, for most of the runtime of the movie, there's very little dialogue. The acting is all physical exploration of this bizarre underground space.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you for coming on the show, Meghan.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, this seems like a really unusual acting challenge where normally I think portraying a character is about their interactions with other people. Here, so much of it was about your interactions with the environment and your character's internal thoughts. So I'm really curious to hear, what was that experience like for you as an
Mm.
actor?
It was challenging. Obviously, there's no dialogue, so having to make sure that what the character was going through was believable, and obviously matched what was going to be put in later. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think it made me um, believe in myself more, my acting abilities, and has made me like a stronger performer overall. So yeah, it was challenging. Obviously, no dialogue, most of it being um, physical acting, and no other cast members the majority of the time. But I really enjoyed it, and found the challenge, really rewarding. So yeah, I'd love to do another one like it again. So yeah.
That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm curious, what parts of it were particularly surprising, and what parts, like, did you successfully predict how it would go in terms of just
Um,
the acting?
so the bits that were like surprising was the location, I guess. The first location, it was actually covered in mold. Um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. So that was a fun, like, because most of the time I'm in the dark,
Yeah.
and there's points where I'm like actually like touching the walls, and then we had another day where we had more lights, and I realized that the walls were like caked in like mold. Um, so that was surprising.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it wasn't the great, it looks great on film.
It
Um,
does, yeah.
yeah. Um, and what was your second part to the question? Sorry.
Oh, I was just wondering, like, because this is such an unusual
Yeah.
acting situation to be
Yeah.
in, I imagine you spent some time preparing yourself for it, and I'm wondering what aspects of it you were able to successfully predict would be,
Yeah. Okay.
different, and what aspects were surprising to you.
Yeah. So the bits that I knew would be predictable, for the belief in myself as a performer, was the crying scenes. I knew that because I've done so many films where I cry, um, um, I knew that I'd be able to get to that point, and I knew that I would, be able to get the emotion and portrayal of the character across well. Um, I guess the bits that were surprising is obviously not acting with anyone,
Hmm.
having to physically react to things that aren't there and trying to like, tell yourself if it looks right, if you had the right reaction. Um, and yeah, and also the locations, because I hadn't been to the locations before shooting. So when I turned up, I had no idea what it was going to look like, and I was pleasantly surprised by each one. Each one was magnificent in its own way. So I say those things are, things that I felt, predictable and surprising about the filming process.
Yeah, let's talk about the locations a little bit because
Mhm,
within the fiction of the film, there's really only, I would say, four locations. There's
mhm,
flashbacks to sort of the normal world.
yeah.
There's the cellar itself, which is this vast underground dungeon.
Mhm,
There's the sort of mansion above the cellar, and
yeah.
then at the very end, we're back into the the normal world.
Mhm,
Um, so it's presented as being this very contained space, but
yeah.
I'm curious, like, was this all filmed at like a really small number of locations, or did you get a bunch and then stitch them together to look like they were all one
Yeah.
space, or how did that work?
No, it's a bunch of different locations. Um, so the idea was obviously that when it was edited together, people could make up the audience member could make up their own opinion on whether they thought that it was one big place, or
Mm,
whether I had been, taken somewhere else, and you know. Um,
mm.
so there was quite a few locations. The cellar underground, the opening part, that was underneath a hotel in Brighton, seafront. Um, and then the mansion was in Hastings. Um, the bedroom, when I wake up the first time, that was another hotel in Brighton. um, the bits when I'm talking to my mum is the director's house. Um, and then the bit where I like escape, that was a jailhouse, an old jailhouse in Arundel. And then obviously like the field scene in Ferring. So yeah, there was a lot of locations. Um, and yeah, somehow the editor was amazing and managed to make it all look like it was like this one big place. Because I personally, if I was watching it, I would probably think it was one big place. I think it makes it more sinister and creepy if it's one big place. But yeah, they did an amazing job, editing it together and making it look that way.
Yeah, within the story, I definitely assumed that it was intended to be one big place, and I couldn't tell whether it was
Yeah,
actually filmed at one big place or
right,
stitched together like that.
good.
Yeah, yeah. This movie is in one sense very, very limited in that like there's very few actors, and we're not doing anything particularly dramatic in terms of effects or anything like that. But then also, as you just mentioned, you had to film in a bunch of different locations,
Yeah,
most of which sound like they were currently operating businesses. So
yeah.
I'm curious how that worked out in terms of the shooting schedule and
Mhm.
the budget, because
Yeah.
if this really was filmed all in one location, I could see this being filmed very quickly, very cheaply. But if since it was in fact filmed in a bunch of locations, I'm curious how that expanded the scope of the project.
Yeah, so we did an Indiegogo, and I think we got over 5,000, I think, which was put towards locations, the masks, costumes, um, props, things like that. Um, in total, it was 9 days of filming, which doesn't seem a lot, but that was like over like 6 months. Um,
Oh wow. Okay.
yeah, obviously one because they were some of the locations were hotels, and they're still running their business, so you had to make sure to check with them if we were allowed, and that there was rooms available to use, um, and then um, yeah, and then obviously trying to like schedule that big scene at the end where I meet everyone, trying to make
Hmm.
like sure that everybody could be there on the day. So I think in terms of like a lack of cast, I was pretty flexible for the shoot. So when it was just me, they could be like, oh, can you like, could we do a last minute like filming day today? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. But when it came to like getting other cast members there, it'd either be like some people would have to come in the morning and they'd have to leave in the afternoon, and then the next people would come in the afternoon and then they'd leave, and I was there for the whole day. So that's how we worked around it. But when it was like the big day, we all got there like I think at 9 a.m. and we didn't leave until like 1 a.m. It was a massive day
Wow.
shooting, yeah, and we had to, like, everybody in the film was there that day. So Jamie had to like keep asking people if they were available on that day so that he could book it. So yeah, 9 days over 6 months doesn't really sound a lot, but yeah, it felt much longer. Looking back on it, I'm like, I can't believe it was only like 9 days. Like, it's insane. But yeah, I guess that was a challenge, getting the actors together. But then again, the actors weren't in it as much. So I guess it helped a little bit. But yeah, location wise, obviously making sure that the business was, you know, the businesses were happy with us being there and in the way, using like the lifts and stuff while people are checking in and wanting to use the lifts themselves and having to pause and let them. So that was a fun challenge. It was pretty funny. But yeah.
That's pretty funny. Yeah. So I'm looking at the Indiegogo campaign now, and
Yeah.
yeah, it looks like you guys raised almost 6,000 British pounds, which is
Yeah.
almost 8,000 US dollars equivalent.
Hmm.
Was that the entire budget?
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
Wow.
yeah. Yeah. Jamie's pretty like, he's very good with like stretching a budget. You know, obviously it paid for the locations, props, and paying you know, like the crew and everything, and getting it edited and all this, and paying actors as well. So yeah, for such a little budget, and when you watch the film, it doesn't look like it was done on like a really, really cheap budget. And I put that down to Jamie's skill of the people he got. You know, he used the crew and the people he knew who could do editing and make it look more expensive, and the locations. Obviously, the locations make it look way more expensive than what budget we had.
Yeah.
But the budget, the Indiegogo reached its target, and then we could carry on, like people could carry on donating as we were
Yeah.
filming. So I don't think we had the total 6 at that when we were shooting. So it was like, you know, being drip fed, and he had to be like, you know, oh, like if we get a donation on this, I can pay for the next like location and things. So I guess that was another challenge, you know, not having enough budget to instantly be able to go and get all the locations sorted. It was kind of being done as we went along. But yeah, that was the total budget.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And yeah, looking at it, it says that a little less than half of the total amount raised was raised during the initial campaign, and the rest came afterwards.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's really fascinating. That because I can definitely imagine, you know, if you have an extra 3,000 dollars or pounds or what have you, that'll definitely make a difference in terms of, you know, what sort of locations you try to get
yeah,
permission to shoot at.
yeah,
That's incredible.
yeah,
Yeah, I almost everyone that I interview is in either low or micro budget
yeah,
range, where we say low budget is $1 million or less, and micro budget is $100,000 or less. And this is
yeah.
very
This is
much on the low end even of that.
yeah, yeah,
So a lot of these, the real monster is real life social issue
mhm,
movies are either completely metaphorical the whole way through, or they make the metaphor, you know, extremely literal by the time that you're done with it. And
mhm,
this was sort of an interesting metaphor, or excuse me, an interesting mixture of the two, in that I found that um aspects of the metaphor became clear as I was watching it, but the literal events of the
Mm,
story did not. I was still a bit unclear, but satisfied with that
mm,
by the end of the film in terms of like just what were the literal things that happened, how much of the things that happened
mm,
were literal events, and how much of them were metaphorical or hallucinatory.
mm,
Um, and so I'm really curious. To what degree did you have an understanding of what was literally going on with your
mm.
character, and to
Yeah.
what degree was that kept ambiguous for you?
Well, Jamie was still writing the script as we were shooting. So I'd only have one part of the script, and then it would be like a week later, a couple of days before we were going to be shooting the next scene, and he either would have like rewritten it or changed it, or given me a whole new script. So for me it was pretty ambiguous the whole way through, because I didn't know what the rest of the film was going to be like as we were filming it. But the bit when I'm at the director's house and I'm with my mum,
Hmm.
that that is that isn't real. It's in her head she's having a nightmare essentially. And then the bits when
Okay.
I'm in the field, I'm having a nightmare then. um so he want I think he wanted to use the priest's use of what's it called, like science fiction in a way, to put put me in limbo. And then it kind of like the ending of the film kind of relates to me having those like dream nightmare scenes. um I'm just left in this place. I'm technically still in the real world, but I'm not, because no one can see me. I can see everybody else, but they can't see me. um, but obviously the parts when I'm like walking around the locations and I'm looking at all these different things, they are realistic, things that are happening. I don't, imagine anything in those moments. It's just those couple of scenes that are, um, I can't remember the word you said, but yeah.
Metaphorical.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I found the bit where you are there, like trying to reach your
yeah,
mom, but invisible
yeah,
and inaudible to her. I found
yeah.
that really moving because it really gets into an aspect of addiction where, like, the person is still there, but you
Mm,
can't
seeing, yeah,
reach, you can't communicate
yeah.
because there's this
Blocking.
veil of,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm,
And I found it really interesting because it was presented in sort of the opposite way of how it often is, where usually we see the sober person trying to reach out to the
literally.
addicted person, and the addicted person can't hear them either literally or metaphorically. And here it was the
Yeah,
other way around, where the addicted person is trying to reach out to the sober person in their life, your character's mother,
yeah.
and can't be heard. So
Mm,
I'm really curious, how much experience with like addiction or with a friend or family member who's addicted to something did
mm,
you have? How much did the director have? Did this
mm.
come from a personal place for either of you?
So not one of the actors in the film, he is in the AA meeting um
Hmm.
bit. He helped write the addiction AA scenes, because he has, a personal um, connection with it. Um, he was an alcoholic, and I don't know if he was a drug addict or anything, but he went to AA meetings. So he helped Jamie write those scenes to make it as believable as possible, and also to keep it, what's the word, sensitive, to
Mm.
people who do have addictions. And I think it was a really good idea with getting him to do it, because what he wrote was like really, moving and sad, and also shows you the other end of, you know, you might have an addiction but you can get through it. um, so he helped write those scenes. I don't know whether he helped write the mum scene. He might have had a bit of an influence on it, but I know he wrote the AA meeting scene, and that seems really sad. But yeah, so he did have an addiction. I think he, you know, he's okay now. But yeah, so, and then for me, you know, I've got health issues personally, mental health issues. I mean, who doesn't?
Mm.
Um, so I could connect with what was happening in the scene, not obviously being like I'm an alcoholic or, you know, I, that sort of things. But I could empathize with what the character was going through and understand and figure out what would my own personal experience be for me to connect with them and to understand what they're going through. And I think also that was the case because the scene was written really well, that it did allow you as a person to, you know, connect with these characters. So yeah, it was a mixture of collaboration, um, and obviously getting the vision of what Jamie wanted across as well in the most sensitive possible way, you know, that we could.
Yeah.
I think we achieved it.
Yeah. Yeah. I am an alcoholic, a few years sober now, but for a
Okay.
while it was
Yeah.
causing problems for me. And I
Yeah.
think that the one aspect of all of that that I didn't see present so much in this film is just like how tempting it is. That in this, it really seemed like you just want it out the whole time.
Yeah.
Um, uh, with the possible exception of like near the end, when you're in the mansion.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if I were to have any critiques about the metaphor, I would
Mm.
make there be something that like tempts you to do the
Yeah.
wrong
No,
thing
yeah,
in
I
the
like, yeah.
cellar.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah, that would have been good. You know, in hindsight, maybe for his second one, who knows?
Yeah. So speaking of hindsight, uh,
Yes.
given what you know now, having finished the shoot and everything,
Mm.
is there anything that, you know, if you could go back and talk to yourself before the shoot begins, is there anything you would have done differently?
Probably believe in myself more. Don't criticize myself too much. Um,
Ah.
yeah, don't continue to do multiple takes of me opening a wardrobe door. Um, yeah, maybe not to touch the walls of the cellar. Um, yeah, mainly being less critical of myself and actually trying to enjoy it more, because when I first got cast, I thought, I went in thinking it was a short film. Um, I
Oh.
I had no idea that it was going to blow up into a feature film. Um, so I went in thinking it was a short film. I'd done lead roles in short films, and it didn't feel as, I felt more comfortable. You know, I had more experience. And then when it all of a sudden blew up into this massive like feature film, it was a little bit daunting, being like, oh my God, like, can I really carry this film as the lead? I'm sure there's better people out there that could do this. Or sometimes I was on set and I'd leave and think I'd done a really bad job, and that Jamie might recast me because he didn't think I was as good as what he thought.
Oh
Um,
no.
that's just me though.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think being less critical and actually believing in myself more. Um, yeah, that's what I would do.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah, you definitely, like, if there had been an incompetent actor in the lead, this movie wouldn't have worked at all.
No,
But yeah, you really carried it, so good
I,
job.
yeah. Now watching it back, you know, I am happy. Obviously, I do sit there and I still be like, why didn't I do that differently?
Yeah.
But I think that's normal. Um, But yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. I forget exactly how the quote goes, but there's some quote to the effect of like, a movie is never finished. You just stop working on it.
yeah, yeah,
There's there's
yeah,
always ways that things could be improved.
yeah.
So this was shot on a very, very low budget. If you had had a much larger budget, like £1 million,
Mhm.
what do you think you or the director would have done differently?
Paid the actors more.
Of course, of course.
I'm not. I think he. I know he definitely wanted the cellar in the opening, and he wanted the jailhouse where I escape. Um, and he probably, I don't know, maybe he would have got a more grand, um, main place. I mean, obviously it looked
Mm,
grand already,
yeah.
but yeah, I think he would have gone maybe bigger on the locations, maybe used more locations,
Mm,
um, and also I think he would have, you know, got more props or more crew, um, better, I don't know, better lighting, better like sound equipment. I don't know. I can't answer that for him, but
yeah,
um,
fair.
I feel like it would have been to do with the locations primarily. If we had a
Okay.
bigger budget, yeah.
Okay, cool. So normally I like to ask the,
Mhm.
director about what's going on in terms of distribution. I don't know
Yes,
how much you know about what's going on with this.
I
Um,
I know a bit.
okay.
So we've got distribution deals in America, Holland, um, over here, I think Sweden, possibly Italy, and some more that I can't remember. And I think it's going to be coming out um, in a couple of months,
All right.
on, like, streaming platforms, like, Amazon and Sky and Virgin. I think it's also going to go on. Is it Shudder? Not Shudder. The other one. Tu
Screambox?
Tubi.
Tubi, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's going to go on those. And we also had. It was also being sold at Cannes Film Festival. Um, when Cannes was on. So yeah, I'm not too sure as to when the exact release date is, um, but I know that we've got distribution deals and we've got a distributor, and yeah, so I'm sure it'll be on loads of different streaming platforms for everybody to see.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a possibility that that will already be the case by the time this episode
It
goes
comes out,
live.
yeah,
Yeah. We're recording in June, and this episode will probably be live in July or August. So we'll see.
nice, yeah, exciting.
Yeah. So, what are you working on currently? Do you have another feature in the works? Back to doing more shorts? What are you up to?
So I've recently also just wrapped another horror film, which I play the lead again. It's about a basically it's a vampire film, and this vampire turns up. Sorry, it's really loud outside. Um, this
That's right. I
vampire,
couldn't hear it.
good, um, goes into a small little like English village, and the community is like, really tight knit. They know everything that goes on, and people, they start finding deceased people and they don't know who's doing it. So it's like a little like mystery. There's more like gore, jump scares, um, and yeah, it's also like there's an investigation that goes on within the film. There's a lot of different elements, and it was great fun to shoot. I worked with some of my friends that I've worked with on previous films, and we just had a brilliant time. Again, we filmed that in 9 days over 2 months, so shorter than The Cellar. But yeah, it's a complete different film to The Cellar. Um, yeah, so I'm excited about that one. That's currently in post production, so it's being edited. And then I've also got another feature film that I'm filming in July, in Portsmouth. So that one's called They Wait in the Shadows. So that is a horror film again, but it's more like a drama horror. There's horror elements, but it's also like a drama.
All
So
right.
I'm really excited for that. And then I got some like TV series. I don't really have any short films at the moment. Um, I've been pretty busy, working on the feature films and stuff. So it's hard to, audition and say your availability when you're still filming. But
Yeah.
yeah, they're the main ones that I'm worked on and working on. So yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I think some people disagree, but personally, I strongly prefer watching a feature film over watching short
sure,
films.
sure,
So
yeah,
if you can only pick one of those to be doing, I know I would prefer the features
sure.
personally.
No, 100%. I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So it looks like you also had a small role in Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2.
Yeah,
So it looks like you're pretty plugged into the independent horror scene there in Britain. I'm curious,
yeah,
could you talk a bit about like what the culture is like in
yeah,
that regard?
yeah. I mean, I didn't plan on going into horror. I like doing drama things, like sad, um, depressing sort of things, and I kind of fell into doing my horror more. Um, but I would say that the indie like horror scene over here is so like or anywhere is so supportive. Um, like the amount of support we got for The Cellar was insane. I mean, it went from we doing this, short film that gradually went into a feature film and no one really knew about it. And then it literally just blew up. All these people were like, oh my God, like this is great, like sharing it, like wanting us to like go on podcasts, and it was like getting in the newspaper and all this stuff. Um, so yeah, the horror community over here is huge. Um, People seem to love horrors, and loads of people are working on them. But all I can say is that they're like such a lovely bunch of people, so supportive, really, great to hang out with. I've been to a few horror film festivals, and everybody is lovely. Um, and yeah, I just think it's a great community to be in, because you feel like you're friends, like you don't know each other, but like, you haven't met, but you do feel like you have this big extended like film family. And yeah, it's just lovely to be part of. um and yeah, they're just super like supportive. um yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it sounds very similar to the scene in America,
Mhm.
but more localized, like the scene in a
Yeah.
single state in America or something like that.
Okay. Yeah. No, like it's a really weird, like it's such a small world. Um, like you could work on a film that is completely different to a horror film, but then you will turn up to a horror film that I might have filmed a feature in Brighton, which is where I'm from, but then I can travel to like Newcastle, and it will be the same actors, and it's like, oh my God, like what are you doing like here? Uh, so yeah, it's great. It's lovely. And also they're really creative. I mean, the indie horror scene is super creative with like what they like. They're going against what a classic horror film is. For instance, The Cellar is like into like science fiction and cults and addiction and all this stuff. Like you would never ever think of putting those genres together. um, and I think it shows how creative you can be, and that on a really low budget you can create a great film. And everybody in the indie industry, not just horror, is super talented, and you can clearly see that they have a passion for film, and it's lovely.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Thinking about the budget again,
Mm.
I the just purely by coincidence, the amount of money that you guys raised is approximately the same amount of money that Robert Rodriguez
Mm.
used to shoot oh, I just forgot the name of it, but his premiere movie, the Mexican crime action
Yeah.
film, um, which he wrote a book about, which was
Mm.
just his diary from the time. And I remember I read that book, being really curious about what the budget breakdown was like, and
Mm.
it was about 1,000 for everything except for one expense, and then 6,000 for film stock.
Yeah.
Uh, because
Yeah.
back then you had to shoot on film,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
that necessarily presented a large expense. And I assume that this was shot entirely digitally, and so that's not an expense. Do you recall like what the camera and audio equipment and stuff like that was like? Like, do you know what it was
I
shot on?
think the um sound. Actually, no, I'm not too sure.
All right.
Mm.
Was it
I
like
would.
a boom mic? Were you wearing
Oh no, yeah, it was a boom mic.
okay.
And then we had obviously like a big camera and like tripod and all the like, what's it called? Studio lighting. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah, yeah, we had loads of lights. I mean, in the one where I escape in the Arundel jailhouse, it was a different cinematographer for that day because our main one was also working on his own feature film. So
Oh.
he couldn't film that day. So we got someone else to come film, and he brought all the different colors, the greens and the reds. He like brought like these gels with him and like put them over
Ah.
the lights to create the different um, lighting styles and effects. And it was already creepy, but then when you put the red in this room, it was just super like sinister. And yeah, it was really nice to see different people's style, and how they film, and what else they brought to the film, in terms of like lighting and how they like set up the scene and got the camera ready, um, and listening to them talk it out and block it and have all these different like really complicated chats about the camera angles that I don't really particularly understand. But yeah, it was great fun. I do feel like I learned some stuff other than obviously being an actor in it, because I was there basically every single day.
I would
Um,
imagine.
yeah,
Not,
so
not they're not I, are there any scenes that you're not in? I suppose they could have shot like some of the shots in the AA scene without you, but
no, I was there the whole time. I'm not on camera, but I was there the whole time. And the stories were so sad. They were actually genuinely like moving me. Like I forgot I was in a film. I was like genuinely
wow.
like crying to them because it was so believable. And hence why Jamie got the other guy to help him write it. But yeah, it was really, really fun shoot, and I feel like I learned some stuff, behind the scenes. Um, and yeah, I got to do some clapping sometimes. That was fun. And yeah, actually, the feature film that I've just filmed, Amelia, I'm an executive producer on it. I helped the budget and everything. So I feel like what I learned behind the scenes on the Cellar, even though I didn't obviously have any crew roles, I have taken that from the Cellar and implemented it onto Amelia, um, which is great, because it's such a different role, to acting, and I just loved helping like produce. I mean, obviously, I'm still helping produce it now, but yeah, it was great fun.
Is Amelia similarly very micro budget in the way that the Cellar was?
Yeah, we just got over 5K,
All
um,
right.
which is that's what the director needed 5. If you got
Yeah.
5, you were good. If you got more, obviously it's great. But yeah, you know, there was times where we were like, oh my god, like, are we going to meet the budget? Like, are we going to make
Mm.
it? Like, it was really like daunting and terrifying at the same time, like, get it out there. But yeah, we got over the budget that we needed, and the locations aren't as obviously grand as the Cellar. I mean, you don't need to, in Amelia, there's not a cult or anything, so you don't need a grand mansion. Yeah.
uh, that's funny because the one cult that I've had any real life interaction with very much did not live in a grand mansion. They lived in a trailer park.
No. Oh, really? Interesting. I
Yeah.
think we're more towards the, you know, the more famous cult. I won't name
Yeah.
it, but I think you know what I'm on about. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Uh, any idea when we'll be able to watch Amelia?
that is being edited. I know for the Cellar, it took about. I mean, with the Cellar, the editor was like would be sent whatever we'd filmed that day and then
Right.
editing it as it went on, whereas with Amelia we haven't done that, so it'll probably take longer, but I think it'll probably be screening in film festivals and all that stuff probably middle of next year.
Okay.
So yeah.
So
Yeah.
mid 2026.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, so it looks like you said you became an executive producer on Amelia. Are you
Yeah.
looking to take more non-acting roles in filmmaking? Like, are you looking to expand into producing and directing or anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. I never thought that I would. I mean, when I went to like college and uni, you know, I was very like focused on like I'm an actor. That's all I'm going to focus on. I'm not interested in anything else.
Yeah.
But I think I don't know. I just think meeting, you know, Jamie. He's been an actor for the like last like over 20 years, and to see him write, well, to know that he wrote The Cellar and then directed The Cellar, I think it might have inspired me to branch out. Um, and that's why I became an executive producer on Amelia. I also ran all the social media and promoted like the Indiegogo and everything. Um, and I thoroughly enjoyed it because I wanted to try something else. And I think that in the future I'd like to maybe write. I'm not very good at writing, so I'd have an idea and then I'd probably get someone to write it. But I'm definitely interested in producing, and I'm definitely interested in possibly directing like my own film. So yeah, I have thought about it. I'm not going to say that it will happen, but I think again it comes back down to believing in myself and believing that I can do it. So yeah. Hmm.
Awesome. Well, it seems like you've become thoroughly enmeshed in the local independent horror, specifically film scene. Are you also doing non-horror as well,
Yes, I
or has this taken over?
this
Yeah.
is kind of ever since The Cellar, it's kind of taken over. I get cast I get cast in a lot of like films, like horror films, like short horror films, feature horror
Hmm.
films. People messaging me being like, "Oh, we're doing like a short horror. Um, you know, we've seen that you did The Cellar, and we thought your performance was great. Would you like to like come on board?" And so yeah, I'm doing more horrors now than I ever did. But I have done other, you know, other genres. I've done comedy, drama, and then I used to do a lot of theatre as well, which wasn't horror. But I do love horror. I do find it really fun. So I'm not complaining. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I do other things. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm curious if you could talk a bit about the difference between acting for stage and acting for the camera.
yeah. So with when you go to college and uni, more so when I mean, I'm only 25, so I'm not saying like back when I went, but it was more focused on stage performing, whereas obviously now there's courses just for like screen acting. So if
Okay.
like theatre acting, you have to learn to like be able to project your voice. It's more,
Because you need to project rather
yeah,
than
you
being
need to get
recorded. Yeah.
people at the back need to hear your mannerisms, and your physicality has to be bigger. Your facial expressions has to be more over the top. Um,
Mm.
Whereas with film, you basically dial it down. Like if you acted on a film like you did in a theatre show, it would come across as like panto, you know, not good. So yeah, with theatre you have to be over the top, more physical, more like show more facial expressions, and obviously if you make a mistake you just have to get on with it. Whereas obviously with film, if you make a mistake, they can be like, okay, cut, like let's do it again. Oh
Yeah.
no, the lighting's not right. Oh no, can you say that a little bit louder? Oh, can you dial down the performance? So basically film is, has to be really subtle, because
Yeah.
anything over the top is really noticeable. So they're like the two main differences. People, they say people who can um, act in theatre can act in film, and vice versa.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just basically knowing what you know the um, the difference between the acting styles. Um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that makes me think of clowns. How
yeah,
clowns in person, like I went and saw, a clown performance a while back, and it was
mm,
very funny, very entertaining.
yeah.
But the same sorts of things in film
Films, it's
are
terrible.
creepy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's because
Yeah.
you're not. It's like, and it's. And I would say that's because you're not really allowed to go too over the top with, you know, the acting.
Yeah.
I mean, you can if you wanted to, but it probably wouldn't look great. So
Yeah. That's perhaps more for like comedies and things
yeah,
like
yeah,
that. You
exactly.
can be more over the top, but if you want to be seriously moving, like the close up
Yeah.
of you crying isn't really an option in theater.
No, yeah,
Uh,
exactly. Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah, and you have
All
to do
right.
it every single night for like
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So I guess there's also more of a focus on memorization in theater,
yes,
whereas you can do multiple
with
takes if you forget your
yeah,
line.
theatre, obviously you can analyze the script, you can understand the character, you can make a background to the character to connect with it, but you also then have to make sure that you're on time for other people's cues, that you're in the right place. You got to bring props on, you got to take props off, whereas with film you can really get into the character and you can
Hmm.
really feel the emotion, whereas I think with theatre it's more, you got to hit your block instantly. You got to put that performance on because people are coming live to watch it. um,
Yeah.
hmm,
So you are very much involved in the extreme micro budget end of independent filmmaking. I'm curious, where do you see the future of independent filmmaking going?
I think it's going to become a bigger thing. Obviously, like at first I feel like people were like, like independent films, like um, doesn't sound great, low budget, don't know how that's gonna work, like how they're gonna get their vision across, that sort of like a kind of bit of judgment, if it wasn't
Hmm.
like. And also for actors as well and performers, I think when you say, oh, I'm doing a feature film, they're like, oh my god, like they think of like Netflix and um you know Warner Bros and all that stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like, no, like it's an independent film. Like, I'm filming it literally just like 5 minutes up the road from where I live. And they're like, oh, okay. Whereas now, I think the quality of independent films are better than some of the big Hollywood films. And it's starting to get recognized more. Um, in a really, really good way. And also it allows creatives to keep working and to create films that they want. And when you get filmmakers and actors all together in the same room, you can make magic. So yeah, I think it's gonna get bigger. I think indie filmmaking. I mean, it should get bigger because there's brilliant creators out there, working on a small budget of 5,000. And yeah, I just think it needs more recognition, to be honest. I think it's great. It's a great platform for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think it's really been very impressive following independent film for the past few years. The sorts of things that people are creating, the
Yeah,
creativity involved, and the
ideas.
ability to stretch a tiny budget is really impressive.
Mm, yeah, it's a great thing to be involved in.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
absolutely. So the Cellar will hopefully, by the time that this comes out, will be available where somebody can
Yeah,
go watch it. And if that's the case, I will include all those links in the description.
brilliant.
You mentioned doing the social media marketing for it earlier, which is always one of the hardest parts of any project. Where where should people go to follow the Cellar and you and anyone else you'd like to give a shout out to on social media?
So the Cellar, we are on Instagram as I think the Cellar 2024. On Facebook, the Cellar is the horror feature film The Cellar. And then we are also on TikTok, and that's under Jamie Langland's, the director's TikTok. And then I'm on Instagram as Meghan Adara, Meghan _Adara, Facebook Meghan Adara, Twitter Meghan Adara. Just the same name. And then Amelia, obviously I did the Indiegogo and the campaign for that, and still managing the social media for that. So we're on Facebook as Amelia Horror Feature Film, Twitter Amelia Film 2025 on Twitter. We're on TikTok and Instagram as well. So basically, if you type in Amelia Horror Film 2025, I'm sure it will come up. Or you can find the links on my acting socials and my personal socials. I share everything about it. So yeah, it should be easy to find.
Great. I will try to include a bunch of those links in the description of this episode. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
That's okay. Thank you so much for having me.